大家好，欢迎回到飞行一行频道. Good day, and welcome back to the Flying Doctor channel. Today we're going to be exploring a bit of luxury on a regional route. We'll be aboard Singapore Airlines. This was one of my very first videos on the channel in a business class flight on the world's second longest route from LA to Singapore. But today we'll be aboard Singapore Airlines Dreamliner in business class. It's probably not going to be as luxurious in terms of amenities and onboard product that I experienced on that long-haul route from LA to Singapore a few years ago, but as one of the top-ranked airlines in the world, it's definitely not going to be something you want to miss. So if you're interested to see what their exceptional service is like, their onboard product on their Dreamliner on this regional route, I encourage you to sit back, relax, get ready for another flight review. Let's go explore a bit of Taipei and see what the area is like before heading to the airport and checking out the SilverKris Lounge at Taipei. Lucky me, I got to fly across the world for a weekend and explore some of the coolest airlines out there. Before we get exploring or reviewing airlines, I want to give a shout out to the Hotel Intrendy. Every good day must start with a solid breakfast, that's my opinion at least, and the open seating buffet here definitely did the trick. After finishing my usual breakfast in hard-boiled form topped with chili sauce, I tried some more local foods. The staff in here were on point and cleared the dishes from my table before I could even refill my drink. The restaurant was clean, food was all fresh, and I felt it was a good blend of more traditional food with a few options for the only Western traveler in the room. I couldn't leave Taiwan without having tried to visit downtown. It was warm out, and I only had 4 hours before I needed to get back to the airport, so I decided to Uber downtown. The cost of an Uber was about 10 times as much as the train would cost, but considering I was on a bit of a time crunch, I think the money was well spent. I did have some sort of objective in mind. After all, I had to set a destination for the Uber. Where did I pick? A 7-Eleven, but not just any 7-Eleven. Subjectively the coolest 7-Eleven on the planet because it's Starlux themed. Yeah, I flew across the world and had a few hours to spend in Taipei, and I decided to Uber to an airline themed 7-Eleven. As a fellow Av geek though, can you blame me? This has definitely got to be one of the most unique 7-Elevens. Now, for those non-aviation related viewers, I did do something a little bit more touristy after grabbing a Red Bull and water. I took a walk down the road to Songshan Airport. Just kidding, not really. I wanted to try plane spotting, but the more I walked, the later it got in the morning, leading to more and more pores on my skin perspiring to cool me off. I sort of aimlessly meandered around the area and found myself in what Apple Maps calls the Aquarium District, which, as I discovered, has some legitimacy to the name. I always enjoy exploring the local culture and taking walks around where I don't think tourists go, all while doing my best to be respectful. I found the orchids growing from trees to be very beautiful, the tropical foliage always perks me up, and the number of plants I saw people growing from their apartments suggested to me the Taiwanese appreciate nature. Lucky for me, I stumbled upon a street market selling some of the local produce, fresh meat and seafood, and small goods. Unfortunately, my exploring needed to end because I was cutting it close to when I needed to be at the airport. I grabbed an Uber back to the hotel, checked out, and hopped on the MRT bound for TPE. The 30-minute ride went by quickly, and I was back at the airport heading up the escalator to the check-in hall. I mentioned during my Starlux inaugural flight review that TPE has a cool observation deck located upstairs of the check-in hall. Before checking in, I took advantage of the views and smells before returning downstairs to check in. After getting a quick fix of some aviation views I don't see every day, I headed back inside to the air-conditioned check-in hall and made my way to the SQ business class check-in queue.
Hello.
After a quick check on my documents, my boarding pass was printed.
Well, all checked in. Very quick and easy. So let's head airside, go through customs, security, and then the SilverKris Lounge.
Once checked out of Taiwan, you'll enter a large central atrium home to your duty-free shopping and boutique stores. Most of the lounges and food options within this central area are upstairs. The lounge was a bit disappointing, but that's probably because the only comparator I have for the SilverKris Lounge is located at the airline's headquarters, and it's amazing. There was a variety of food options with a heavy focus on local dishes, all of which appeared fresh. The general feel inside of the lounge space was relaxed, a bit humid, and very open. I didn't see a whole lot of spaces to quietly relax or get any shut-eye if that's your thing, but considering TPE is not a transit hub of Singapore Airlines, you're probably not doing that sort of thing when flying this airline out of Taiwan.
The lounge is okay. Have a Coke Zero here and a can of water. So yeah, let me know what you think about this SilverKris Lounge and whether or not it would be worth the upgrade for the business class ticket.
I ended up exiting the lounge and walking around the airport. The terminals at TPE are essentially all part of one large interconnected square. The airline you fly with or destination will determine whether your check-in will be in Terminal 1 or 2. One unique feature that I really enjoyed exploring while walking around was the informative waiting lounges. If you're looking to exercise, you can even get a workout in while waiting for your departing flight, but I'm not sure on shower facilities. If you're wanting to do some plane spotting, there are a few locations within the terminal, but the tinted glass doesn't make getting a clear shot the easiest. After making at least one complete loop around the airport, I headed to the waiting room for my flight. Boarding began shortly thereafter, and I made my way down the jet bridge. Today's flight will be on board 9 Victor Sierra Charlie Whiskey, a 1.5-year-old Boeing 787-10. Singapore Airlines has a couple of unique configurations for their aircraft. Did you know that one of the configurations they use for the A350 has 0 economy seats? For high-demand intra-Asian flights, Singapore utilizes a 2-cabin configuration, and today's aircraft is one of those. As I make my way into the business class cabin, let's take a quick look at how the 337 seats are distributed on today's plane. The forward cabin contains the 36 lie-flat business class seats as well as 2 lavatories. The 301 economy seats are configured in a 333 layout with the exception of the last 2 rows. Well then, welcome on board the Singapore Airlines Dreamliner in business class. I have seat number 20 Kilo. It's a nice looking seat. You do have quite a bit of privacy here. We'll take a closer look at the seat once we get airborne, and hopefully these dimmable windows do not mysteriously get dimmed by the cabin crew. And as I was settling in, one of the cabin crew walked through the cabin offering champagne or orange juice. This service was followed by the flight's purser delivering hot towels. After the pre-departure drink, cabin was secured and we were pushed back for engine startup and taxi. I have to applaud the efficiency and professionalism of the aviation machine I witnessed in Taiwan because, dang, they're efficient. Just 23 minutes after I had boarded, the aircraft was being pushed back for departure. After crossing the airfield, we were in line behind a few aircraft before we were on the active with takeoff thrust set. Alrighty, well, we're airborne, and one of the things that I missed during the pre-departure services is a number of flight crew who came and addressed each passenger by name, confirming the meal I had pre-ordered for Book the Cook, whether or not I would like a drink with the nuts that are provided just after departure, and I'm going to try the Singapore Sling, I think it is, that I asked for to be included with the nuts. We'll see how that goes. The windows are still undimmed. There's Wi-Fi on board. Once we get above 10,000 feet, we'll see how that is, whether or not I'm able to connect. Hopefully I am. Give you a bit of a rundown on the Singapore in-flight entertainment option, as well as some of the reading options available. There's a nice looking menu left, I think, and overall, excellent service so far. One disappointing thing that I really don't understand in these Dreamliners is the lack of air vents. You're kind of stuck with whatever the cabin temperature is set to. Oh well. Depending on the orientation of your seat, there's a cubby at shoulder level housing 2 USB charging ports, a universal AC power outlet, water bottle, and over-ear headphones. On the console, you'll find all of your seat controls, as well as the remote for the IFE. There's a coat hanger that is somewhat hidden, but placed out of the way. 2 reading lights are available above your head, and additional reading lights are available on the little privacy wing. Having inadvertently pushed the call button on other flights in similar seats, I thought I might have done the same today, but turns out it was someone else. A tray table extends out under the IFE screen. It can be unfolded and further adjusted. The Singapore Sling arrived, and I was eager to taste it. I guess it was a bit sour. I usually prefer straight drinks if I am to drink, but felt obligated to try a Singapore labeled drink. The roasted nuts, they were great. The menus provided on SQ flights are quite luxe. There were 4 main course options on today's flight for lunch, including braised beef shoulder in red wine sauce, slow-cooked chicken and ginseng with chive mushroom noodle, seared halibut fillet, or Taiwanese braised pork belly with yam. There's a decent wines list, as well as about a dozen cocktails. On the non-alcoholic half of the drinks menu were mocktails, fruit juice, Coke products, milk, coffee, and a large selection of teas. Okay, so time for a science lesson, or virus lesson. One virus that is spread rampantly throughout the Southeast Asia and tropics region is dengue virus, an arthropod-borne virus transmitted by mosquitoes. Generally speaking, it can cause a wide array of flu-like symptoms. The reason I wanted to talk about dengue virus and Singapore is because one of the interesting findings in the last few decades is that a bacteria known as Wolbachia can infect these mosquitoes. When it infects mosquitoes, it can actually prevent the spread of dengue virus. Now, it's kind of an indirect way. Let's break it down a little bit. If you didn't know, female mosquitoes are the ones that bite. Males
they really only have one purpose in life, and that is to fertilize females, and so that the females can lay eggs that give rise to the next generation. Now, males, when they're infected with the Wolbachia bacterium and they fertilize the female mosquitoes, if that female is not infected with the Wolbachia, what ends up happening is that the subsequent eggs that are laid by the female mosquito and develop into larvae, they're unable to transmit viruses like dengue virus. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but just to give you an idea of how science is really transforming the way that we combat infectious diseases, it's a pretty cool idea. You intentionally infect male mosquitoes with this bacteria, introduce them into areas where there are a lot of this particular species of mosquito, and you actually dramatically decrease the transmission of these viruses. I'll show you some maps from Singapore in particular. They began this study in 2016, I think, and they're continuing to expand it because they're seeing a lot of very good results when it comes to stopping dengue transmission. Like many other viruses, there are strains or different serotypes of dengue virus. Dengue has 4 serotypes, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you live in one of the regions where dengue is endemic, you have probably been infected by dengue. What ends up happening with the second or third infection is that you can have some cross-reactive antibody response within your immune system, and that is what can lead to the more severe complications like dengue shock syndrome. Luckily, there are a few vaccine candidates out there in the works. Some of them have hit a few roadblocks, but we are definitely making progress towards a successful vaccine.
Alright, time to get back to the flight review. Dinner begins with a starter of smoked duck, some greens, and a very tasty sauce. The plate was very fresh and definitely got my taste buds warmed up for the main.
Right, well, lunch has arrived, and if I am to predict the taste of the salmon based off the appetizer, should be pretty darn good. But let's go ahead and give it a shot, see how this braised salmon tastes. Not bad. It's probably a little difficult to get salmon the appropriate texture and cooked correctly on a plane. Good taste. I'll eat it. I'm hungry. Definitely not a bad meal. Don't let me give you any false impression that I think it's bad.
Overall, it was pretty good. Good enough that I cleared my plate, minus the mushroom.
Here for some cookies and cream ice cream, fruits and cheese.
Dessert options included a fruit plate, cheese plate, or bowl of ice cream. After selecting the fruit plate, the FA double-checked to make sure I didn't want one of the other options in addition to my first choice. In hindsight, I would have enjoyed the cheese plate as well. That was a decent meal service, and as you can see, I have decided to go fully flat. I do have my shoes on still, and I will say that my feet are confined to a very small area. One of the downsides of being tall is you will struggle to find a lie-flat seat that can accommodate your height. Either way though, there's a blanket that's provided. There's no comforter on these shorter regional flights. Meal was alright. Salmon, it tasted good. The meal was good. Fruit was fresh for the dessert. And the highlight for me was the appetizer. I really like smoked duck. Wonder what kind of duck it was. If there's anything else notable throughout the flight, I'll let you know, but I plan to get a little bit of a respite here, and yeah, we'll keep you posted on what's happening. The KrisWorld entertainment system is pretty decent. There's a selection of live TV options, 383 movies to choose from. If you try and scroll too fast, you might break the application, but luckily enough, the developers coded in a restart feature so you don't have to bother the cabin crew. Of course, there's also a map feature with all the standard views. If you want to view the menu in flight, well, you'll be prompted to connect to Wi-Fi for whatever reason to do so. Of course, I tried and unfortunately wasn't able to establish a solid connection. Even after disabling my VPN, speed test didn't work and I wasn't able to open Google. The lav up in the forward cabin is relatively large and very clean. You'll find soap, lotion, and a facial mist, plus some wall art in the form of faux orchids. The drawer was stashed with a few dental kits.
Commencing our descent in a short pause time, taking currently good weather over the aerodrome. Cabin crew, please prepare the cabin forward. Thank you.
Well, it turns out that I was tired. Ended up falling asleep, and yep, as you just heard, the pilot has begun the descent into Singapore. So, as we drop below whatever clouds there are, I'll give you a breakdown on the cost and what I paid for this flight.
So, how much does a business class flight between Taipei and Singapore cost? I paid 25,000 Alaskan miles, plus about $20 in taxes and fees. Alaska Airlines has one of the best points redemption programs, and unfortunately for me and millions of others, Amex just ended their points transfer program with Hawaiian Airlines. Since Alaska purchased Hawaiian, there's been a way to transfer points between the two airlines' loyalty programs, which I've taken advantage of. Regardless, I've checked Google Flights, and you can expect to pay anywhere between $500 and $900 for this particular flight in business class. In my opinion, I would pay $500 for this particular flight in business class, but only if I were departing from Singapore headed to Taipei. The SilverKris Lounge in Singapore is excellent, and what I showed you at the beginning of this video is a poor example of how great the airline's lounge is at their home base. Today's crew was exceptional. Always courteous, smile on their face, they made eye contact, addressed passengers by name in the forward cabin, and made a genuine effort to ensure passengers were comfortable. The level of service the Singapore Airlines cabin crew has provided me on this flight and one a few years ago is exactly what I would expect to receive if paying the full fare.
After disarm, please.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Well, there's Singapore Airlines business class on a regional flight for you. Something that I would look forward to any day of the week on any flight if I have the opportunity to fly with them again. Now, as I broke down the price for you, the only time that I have flown with Singapore Airlines is when using points, and I've only flown with Singapore Airlines in business class. So I'm quite spoiled, lucky, very privileged, having been able to do that. If you ever get the opportunity, I encourage you to definitely enjoy and spoil yourself. Either way, I hope you got a glimpse into what it's like to fly in Singapore Airlines business class regionally. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I'm going to go explore the massive airport at Changi. There's a lot of things that I want to see. I'm in the Lily Garden right now. So yeah, I'm going to go explore. You continue to enjoy whatever you are doing. And as always, thanks for watching. See ya.